Here's kind of a practice run at the teaching beginners how to pole vault for the Texas Explosion. My name is Matthew Barry. I'm the assistant coach at Pole Vault Atlanta. I've been with Coach Hal Fairbanks, the founder of the program, when he created the program in about 2006. I've been with him since 2010, 2011 ish, and I used to work with the beginners for about 5, 6 years, and then as we got more coaches on staff, I started working more with Hal and the elites. And so I pretty much coach all the kids on the team in terms of the beginners all the way up to the elites. So we're a program in Atlanta that really has deliberate steps in the way we teach the pole vault. There's no true magical way to teach the pole vault. If there was, then everyone would do it. There wouldn't be people with different systems and different ideas. So even though Sean Francis has a book out there that says there's more than one way to pole vault, there really is a basic way of teaching every athlete how to pole vault. If you think about basketball, every child is taught to do a layup pretty much the exact same way because that's the masterful way of doing it. Everyone is taught to throw a football pretty much the exact same way, same principles, because it's the most efficient and effective way of doing it. And so the process of how we teach athletes how to pole vault is a way that we look at it in the most efficient way of teaching an athlete in terms of steps, body movement, arm movement, and then once they leave the ground, doing what they do. We teach what's called the Petrov-Bubka model. Sergei Bubka was coached by Vitaly Petrov. After Petrov came back from, he had a coach in World War II that came back, and he was a one-armed guy who taught Vitaly Petrov the proper pole carry and said, this is how you hold a pole, which was kind of ironic because he only had one arm. But the way he held the pole was revolutionary. And so with one arm, he then taught Sergei Bubka, arguably the greatest pole vaulter ever. I understand Mondo is quite the phenom, but until Mondo breaks the world record 35 times, I kind of, we got to give respect to Sergei Bubka at the time. So with that model, Vitaly Petrov taught Sergei Bubka a truly mechanical way of pole vaulting from the first step of the run, holding the pole, everything all the way up to the plant. And if you think about it, the run and the plant are 90% of the actual pole vault. Everything in the air lasts about a second, but you could spend up to 8 seconds on the runway depending on how far you're running back. And so from a logistical standpoint, everything on the runway is far more important than what happens when you leave the ground. Now, in the way we teach the pole vault, we have what's called the plant path, the proper approach. We start kids with a short pole, even if they've pole vaulted, because we want to look at how they hold the pole. We want to take a look at their grip. We want to take a look at how they rocker step, how they walk, and their head, chin, thigh, knee, everything movement, really. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The most efficient way of moving the pole and walking and planting the pole, again, A squared, B squared, C squared. The higher the takeoff angle and the better the plant takeoff, then the more efficient you're going to be in moving the pole. So then we look at getting off the ground, preferably in a sand pit, because you can't make the mistakes in a sand pit that you can get away with on a big pit. We've all seen kids go straight up and land on the front pad on a bendable pole, and people go, oh, wow, you should have done this. Well, it's a good thing the pit's there. Well, if you get away with that in the pit, but you can't get away with that in the sand pit. So you have to master the technical approach in the sand pit. And then everything we talk about after we learn in the sand pit, we then take it and we put it on the pit, where we talk about turning, going over a barricade / bungee, which I'm going to go over in a second. And then we try to do this on the first day of instruction. But we don't want to rush the vaulters for getting over a bungee or a barricade or a bar. Because if you rush that, you're actually allowing or enabling bad habits to form. And by doing that, what a coach does not teach the athlete and the athlete makes an error, that is what the coach allows or enables the athlete rather than simply instructing the athlete to do the preferred motion. The resources that we use at Pole Vault Atlanta are I call the Old Testament from beginner to Bubka and Izimbayeva too. I firmly believe this is the best pole vault book out there. Alan Launder and John Gromley wrote this book, and it took everything that Vitaly Petrov taught vaulters in the mid 80s and early 90s, and what he did was he studied every single aspect of the pole vault. There's probably hundreds of visuals in the book. It also shows different sequences in the pole vault. There's a DVD that goes with it. I firmly believe this is the best book out there. It's the most technical book out there. Some people dismiss it because they think of it being too scientific, and that's fine. It's understandable. And some coaches even say it's, quote, antiquated. But I find that word antiquated when you talk about the pole vault to be something that's not a relevant word, because it's not antiquated the way people run a motion offense in basketball. The motion offense in basketball pretty much hasn't changed in the past 20 years. So there's nothing antiquated about it. It's still run. The next book that I believe is what I call the New Testament is Dave Butler's Violent Ballet. It takes a lot of the beginner to book and then breaks it down into easier language to understand, and some of the visuals are a little easier to follow. The book is fantastic. Dave Butler shows a lot of do's and don'ts in the pole vault, also talks about instructional methods. And if you've not heard of Dave Butler, you need to go on YouTube and check out some of his videos. Him and Tom Hayes, I believe, have some of the best instructional pole vault instruction videos out there. And they do a great job of walking athletes through this. We also use this website called the M40 Six Plant Model. I'll open this website real quick. It talks about the way to plant the pole in order to get what's called a free takeoff, which is when you jump off the ground and before the pole tip hits the back of the box, which enables the highest takeoff angle. And it also looks at how the pole movement is to be done. And the reason why it's called the M640 model is because the highest recorded jump that Sergei Bubka ever took was technically 6.4 meters, but it was with a crossbar that was not that high, but there was some mathematic algorithm or some guy did some finagling on the internet and figured that measurement-wise, he would have made 6.4 meters with that plant that he had. And so that's why it's called the 640. And then we use a website called One Approach Run, which is created by DJ Johnson. And DJ has what's called the step chart. And so I actually use this step chart with my hurdlers and my long jumpers and triple jumpers because I coach track and field, all aspects of it. And this is a ridiculously intense and detailed version of what's called the step chart. If you look in Dave Butler's book, The Violent Ballet, you'll see that there's what we call the 6-stride mid chart. Earl Bell has a 2-step mid chart where when you are 2 strides to go to the box, if you hit that, then you should be all set. And there's an algorithm that goes with Earl Bell's step chart. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not going to criticize it or critique it or say that it's good or not, because I'm not gonna discern or say that a method is ineffective if I don't understand it, because that's just not correct from an educational standpoint. But the way that this looks is, if you're holding at 10, this is the way we use it at Pole Vault Atlanta. This is why this is called our step chart. If you're holding at about 10 feet 2 inches, then your mid mark is 34 feet. So if you're running 7 lefts, all right, you're running from 74 feet. And so you're assuming that you're holding at 10-2. And 74 feet is a guide. You could be 75, you could be 76, but you're not going to be like 78 or 79. But when you hit 3 steps to the box, you'll hit 34 feet with your left or right stride, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed, whatnot. And same thing. So if you're holding at 11-1, your mid mark is 37 feet. If you're holding at 13-2, your mid mark is 44 feet. And we're religious about the step chart system, and we feel like it's the most effective way in teaching our athletes the pole vault. Speed and power are great, but if it's not controlled and if the run is inconsistent, if the strides aren't the same length, then you're pretty much running inefficiently. It's kind of like looking at Usain Bolt run the 100-meter dash. When he comes out of the blocks, obviously those strides are different. But once he's erect and tall from the 30-meter to the 100-meter point, his stride length is pretty much the exact same. It may differ a few inches here or there, but the stride length is to be the same stride length and control and speed, and that's what we want in the pole vault. So our best pole vaulter held at 14.9, and his mid mark was 49 feet, and so he hits that mid mark. And so we'll see these people in this competition. Over the next week, you'll see my kids run and jump, and you'll see that I'll have min marks at that aspect. So that's just something to think about. Now, in terms of teaching a beginner how to pole vault, it all starts with a short pole. And so this is a cut pole that's about maybe 7 or 8 feet long, as you can see right here. And so we talk about proper pole placement. The feet and shoulders should be square. Feet should be shoulder width apart. Your top hand on the pole is gripped. It can be an open or closed grip with your hand. I generally teach the athletes to have an open hand so that way they close it and they're more relaxed. Their arms are more relaxed running down the runway because you don't want to be tense coming down the runway. If you're tense, then you're pretty much negating some muscle movement as you're coming down the runway. So the top hand is on the hip. The bottom hand is 7 inches from the chest with the elbow down, wrist underneath. So that way you have more control. You're not fighting the wind and you're not fighting the elements. And again, your upper body is relaxed. First thing we do is we do a rocker step 1-2 plant. So the athlete rocker steps back on the right foot because this is a right-handed pole vaulter. So rocker step and they walk 2 steps forward, 1, 2. So rocker step 1, 2. And then the pole movement is with the bottom hand moving the pole forward and up. The athlete finishes on the toe. Head up, knee up, chest up, everything up. Even though you're looking down at the box, you still want your head up because you want to have all your momentum go upward rather than simply just going forward with power. We do all of these walking drills. We do rocker step 1-2 plant. So it's just 2 steps. Then we go rocker step 1-2-3, 1-2-3. The 3 is on the plant. Rocker step 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2. And these are basic walking drills where you want to keep the left hand no lower than the logo on the shirt right here. The left hand should always stay about 7 to 8 inches from the chest. And as you start to move the pole forward, your top hand is catching up with your bottom hand, moving the plant forward and up. So that way the pole always stays above your chest as you plant the pole, which enables you to be the tallest plant angle possible. From the short pole drills, we then apply it to a long pole. You then pick up a pole and then feel the weight of the pole. And that's why it's important to keep your elbows down. So your bottom hand, your elbow is cocked down with your wrist underneath. Basically, we call it 2 thumbs. You can hold the pole with 2 thumbs. With your top hand, your thumb's under the pole on your hip. Your bottom hand, the thumb is under the pole. And able to hold the pole without having to grip it too tightly. Again, if you grip the pole too tightly, you're kind of wasting energy and you're running tense. We do the same thing. Rocker step 1-2, rocker step 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2. And we actually don't let the kids plant the pole tip on the ground. We don't want the tip to hit the ground because if you think about it, if the tip hits the ground, then you are actually teaching the athlete to hit the box and hit the box with your head down and with everything going downward. Whereas if you think about it, when you jump up off the ground, the tip will hit the box, but the box is 8 inches deep. So when you're teaching the kids to plant the pole tall off the ground without the tip hitting the ground or hitting the box, you're teaching them to jump up at the takeoff. And you're kind of inadvertently teaching them to jump free off the ground, as we say. We take these drills to the sandpit. We generally have the kids hold the pole with the tip down at their feet, and we have them reach up as high as they can with their top hand. And they go up 2 grips. And then they start from 11 feet with the pole. Their top hand is at their ear. The bottom hand is planting 8 inches again from the chest. But it looks more in this motion when they start from the sandpit. But they're not holding high. And they're running from 11 feet. Rocker step 1-2. Planting and jumping into the box, and that's two steps. Rocker step 1-2, planting the pole tall over their head, their knee is up, and their trail leg is straight. And we're trying to prevent them from pulling with their top hand. You want the pole to go in a straight line, and if they pull with their top hand, they're generally going to go off to the right if they're right-handed, off to the left if they're left-handed. If they drop their knee, they won't go in a straight line. And we start with our grip low, and we work our way up. From there, it's a safety thing too. Then we go to 22 feet, which is rocker step 1-2-3, 1-2-3, which means the steps got to get down quick. Rocker step 1-2-3, 1-2-3. It's not a 1-2-3, 1-2-3. We want every step to be the same cadence. So 1-2-3, 1-2-3. And then we get to 32 feet on the runway. And the grip goes up as the athlete is becoming more comfortable holding the pole and as the athlete is more successful. At 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, the athlete starts with the pole on the hip and they practice moving the pole forward and up and out. So at 32 feet with about a 9-ish foot grip, 9-6-ish foot grip, depending on the skill of the athlete, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So the pole is moving every single step, and the athlete is going to jump on the last step. They rocker step, and each step is going to be the same cadence. Rocker step, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And if the kid can get faster, the kid can go faster. Rocker step, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's about the athlete getting the knee up and getting the foot back down, the striking of the forefoot underneath the hip as quickly as possible. We actually receive a lot of criticism in the way we teach the kids to run. A lot of people say you need to push hard out the back, power, speed, etc. I fully respect and understand that. But what we want to do is we want to teach our athletes the most efficient way of running, because if we're trying to teach them to run the same every single step to the box. And what's likely going to happen is an athlete will run with this extremely powerful run at a beginning of the meet, and then they will get slower and weaker as the meet goes on if they're not in great shape. And the run will change. And then if you think about it, at the end of the meet, you're more likely pushing your athlete in rather than telling your athlete to push out, because they're a little more tired, so they need to be a little bit closer to the box. And that's what we've got. Turning over the barricade or a bungee, we don't use a crossbar. We use a barricade, which is like a big foam pad, and we put it in the sandpit, so the athlete has to work on going right knee over left leg, as I'm going to show in a video in a minute. And when we're at the expo, my athletes will be demonstrating this. We put the barricade. It's about a 1.5 foot by 1.5 foot by 6 foot or 4 foot barricade. It's like a foam tackle pad for football. And that we put it right over the trapezoid of the pit. So the kids, it's sitting on top of the pit at the trapezoid area. So the kids have to send their right knee over their left leg to turn. And this forces the athlete to go long instead of just going straight up and straight down. We generally want the kids to be running with a 9 to 10 foot grip on a non-bendable pole. They're running between 30 and 34 feet, depending on their grip, and it's a 4-left approach in order to get them to turn properly over a barricade. Because many a times you see coaches celebrate a kid going over a bar, and they don't turn, they make a high bar. That's great, but you're still enabling a bad habit. You're still allowing the athlete to do something improper or incorrectly in the air. And I've seen this a number of times at meets, and it's just a teacher thing that I look at and don't think it's efficient. So we get to the pit time, as we said here. Again, rocker step 1, 2, rocker step 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, plant, rocker step 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And these numbers are approximate, depending on the grip. All athletes will make the same mistakes, by the way, gang. That's just science. That's just the way it is. And if an athlete isn't successful in the pit, there's nothing wrong with going to the sand pit. Our elite athletes, even our 15, 16-foot pole vaulters for the boys and 13-foot girls, they all have to warm up in the sand pit. It doesn't matter how good you are. It's like LeBron James still does layup drills before a game. It's called warming up, and that's fine. Then we have what are called the 6 drills. The 6 drills are the kids have the pole on their hip, and there's 20 meters. You've got a cone and another cone that are 20 meters apart. The kids rocker step, and they try to get 20 total steps in between these 20 meters, or 10 lefts or 10 rights, depending on if they're right-handed or left-handed. So it's a rocker step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 total steps between the cones, which means the stride lengths have to be the exact same, and it works on cadence. It works on getting the feet down quickly. So that's kind of how that works. And then we have what's called goose steps. And the kids do 6 of these. So down and back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are warm-up drills. The goose steps is you're doing like a waddle run where the kids' feet are straight and they're keeping the pole on their hip and they're trying to get their feet down quickly, their legs under their hip. I'll show you a video about this in a minute. At the actual expo, the kids will be demonstrating all this stuff. Then we have what are called walking hurdle plant drills. I don't know. No, I don't have those there, but the kids are going to demonstrate this as well. And then they've got hurdle plant drills. And these are some of the basic concepts that I'm going to be speaking about. What the arm action looks like. Pole vaulters are basically sprinters with a pole, no extra motion. Everyone makes the same flaws, right? And these are some of the basic things that we talk about in the jumping itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto our, I'm going to go on YouTube just to give you a visual. I put a instructional video out years ago.
Vaulter, so the right hand goes.
And you'll see, let me get to some of this stuff real quick so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm going to be showing.
On their hip, the bottom
Roger
arm
step,
about 8 inches from the chest.
1, 2.
The vaulter then moves the pole with both hands up as they do the walking drills. 1-2 plan is the first drill, though only 2 steps, then we'll eventually transition to a long pole.
So you see the athletes doing the walking.
Rocker step, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
And then you'll see
Then
the
we
kids
take
have a
these
long
drills to
pole.
the sand pit, as you're now about to see.
Take them to the
The
sand
athlete
pit.
puts the pole tip at their feet, reaches up as high as possible,
Rocker step.
and that is their top hand.
1, 2.
From 11
She
feet,
can obviously go higher on her
step,
grip.
and planting into the pit, not pulling, and keeping their knee up and their trail leg straight.
So this
We can move
athlete's
them up a
capable
little
of
bit on
holding
grip.
higher.
We generally stay
Roger
on lower
step.
grip, and
Nope,
we
she's
work
gonna.
our way
Yep,
up
she
from
realized she
here.
had it wrong. Roger
Rocker
step.
step.
1, 2.
1, 2.
Trying to leave the ground.
We do not want the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Now right
Again,
here, we didn't
turning,
have the
finishing
barricade
with
at
their
this
top
point
hand on the
in
pole.
time.
This
But
case
what we
is a
did
right-handed
was
pole.
we introduced what's called the barricade. We would put the foam pad there for the athletes to turn. These are some of our more elite girls from years ago demonstrating these things, because this video is made in 2017 when we had these athletes. And we're trying to get their feet down quickly, and they're trying to get the turn going on. And then gold medal runs a little bit different of a drill. I'm trying to see if we have the 2020 drill in here. Pardon me that the video is a little old. I got to update it. Having a little bit of fun. I know I've got the barricade drill in here. And I'm going to have the kids demonstrate this when we get to the meet. So here's the barricade. We call it the tripod drill. So rocker step. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Sending the right knee over the left leg, turning over a barricade. It allows and it makes the athlete, force the athlete to jump higher into the pit. And we get a lot of criticism like, why don't you have them back up further and try to run faster? Well, you're holding low, so it looks a little silly-ish, as a lot of coaches say, because you're holding so low and you can take longer strides. But as you get further on the runway, you'll see the kids running a little faster. And I'm going to have the kids demonstrate running from a little farther back on the runway, so that way you can see what they're doing. So this athlete, she's not running slow, that's for sure. She's getting those feet down quick from a further approach. This is a 13.7 jump indoors by one of our girls. She's holding about 13.2 on a 14-foot pole. Jumping over her grip. So she's getting those feet down quick, efficient. So this is what we got. This is some of what we're going to talk about. This athlete. See how she's getting her feet down quick. She used to run a little bit more on the robotic side. This is her first national meet. But this is some of the stuff we emphasize with our athletes. So some of our basic drills and some of the basic ways the kids run. I'll pull up a video for you because you're watching this. So let's see if I can find the actual video. This is some of the kids from our camp. Rocker step.
Rocker step and go.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt it right there, but it's rocker step 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, I believe is what that drill is. I'm winging this right here for you. That way you can just see what I'm going to talk about to the kids. Planting nice and tall. Yep. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then just to give you an idea, you know, the longer strides. People think we have these really ridiculously short strides. And yeah, this athlete does have some short strides going on right here, but he's moving. This is a miss. This is the bar's at 16.3. Oh. But just to give you an idea, he's moving. Holding higher, and we're checking the 4-step mid to see where the mid is. So if you'll see, we'll watch it one more time just to give you an idea. So, dadgummit. Sorry about this. Okay, now what you'll see is we got that 4-step mid. You see that shoe, the red shoe right there? Okay, so if I try to go again, he hits it with his left foot. Worrying about that. A lot of coaches worry very much about what's called the takeoff foot, the left foot, the takeoff foot. And so one of the things that's the last step in the pole vault. If the first couple steps are not or inefficient, then the last step really isn't going to make that big of a difference because the first few steps are off. These are demonstrating the walking drills with the short pole. And these are things that the athletes are going to demonstrate when we get to the actual, when we get to the explosion. Well, excuse me. This is just my practice run of demonstrating walker step. 1, 2. That's a drill we call a 640 drill. That isn't something I'm going to be discussing at the clinic, but just something to think about. Let's see if I can get you one more video of a jump. That way you can kind of see what I'm talking about with some of the what we look at on the run-wise. That was a 16-foot 2-inch jump by our number one boy Alon, trying to. I guess I don't really have a really good video from the angles. My apologies, but this is what I'm teaching at the Texas Expo. So hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching and thank you for your time.